Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Kwa majina naitwa Saida Mueni na nyumbani ni Kibwezi, which is on Mombasa Road on your way to Nairobi. Yeah. And I come from a family of 6 where our 2 parents, we have 2 siblings, boys, and then 1 girl. Yeah, so that's our family. I am the firstborn, and so being the firstborn, you know, you have to go through a lot of things in this life, you know, and because everyone is looking at you and all that. So probably I started schooling at that area in Gokolani Primary back in 2004, and so that's when I joined class 1 in 2004. So at that time we were actually going to church. See, my mother's home background and everything, they were Muslims, but then after migrating to the Ukambani area in Kibwezi, that is, she got married to my dad, who wasn't Muslim at that time. So in our daily life, I remember there is this day when Ustadh Hamisi Nyondo, late Ustadh Hamisi Nyondo, so that day he visited us in our home. At that time it was only me and my brother, our second born that time, and then my parents. We were only 2 at that time. So he visited us, and then, you know, we were gathered, and yeah, so he started explaining to us what's Islam and all this. Yeah, because in school I used to see kids putting on hijab, then on Fridays they are going to pray and all that. So probably I was in class 3. So that's when this Ustadh came home. Then we were gathered, we sat like in a circle, and then he explained to us what Islam is all about and all these things. I can't remember much what specifically he said, but at least I remember that he came to our home and yeah, talked about Islam and all that. And then Mom and Dad agreed to convert into Islam. So from that time, we were actually given new names, you know, and we're just happy now. We have new names. You know, when we go to school, we be like, yeah, I have a new name. I'm no longer so and so. You see that now that we are going to church, you know, and that these names that you have to use when you're kind of baptized. Actually, I was baptized. There is a time I was dipped in this tank of water, you know. Yeah, and so I was like, yeah, I am now someone else. You see, when you're given a new name, now you become someone else. So we converted into Islam. Everyone was given another name apart from now the the culture name now. We were given these new Islamic names and all that. Yeah, so from that time, Ustad told us, there is madrasa, the kids can come to madrasa and be taught, as well as our parents also. They also used to go for classes, so yeah. And because at least they were not the only ones who were going for the classes, so I was like, yeah, as a family, we are going to one place. Now we are not going to, this place where people are just, everyone is talking, everyone is like worshipping, and there is no this uniformity. So at least when we were now attending the probably classes in madrasa, you want to learn new things. See, now that we are still young, I'm like, okay, I want to learn. I want to know what this is. I want to know what this is. Yeah, and so we just we continued with these classes. So Tamhid, Awal, and all this time I was just consistent with going to madrasa and all that. And then also my parents used to, and they are up to date also, going to the mosque when there are functions, when there is a gathering, anything that is important, they also usually attend. Okay, so one thing I can remember that we used to do, and were like, first, okay, this school was kind of sponsored by a church. Yeah, the primary school. And so, you have to sing in the morning, there are these prayers. So we used to go to church on Sundays. We used to go sing, and then there is during the December session, you sing, you read these Bible verses that you've memorized, and then you're awarded. I remember there is a time I got several prizes just because of memorizing those verses. And then at some point I remember that I used to sing. See, there is usually a session for the kids to sing. Yeah, so I used to lead the others while we were singing. Yeah, so that was it. And then I remember then we went for the baptism. Yeah, no, we were dipped in this water, I was called Eunice back then. Yeah. Okay, how I came to know about it, just after now Ustad has come home, we have been converted to Islam. No, we are no longer going to church, so we started to go to madrasa. After school, because I was still in lower classes, after school at around 12:30, we go to the mosque. So we usually had classes where we'd be taught all these Arabic alphabets, all these, like the introduction part of the madrasa. Yeah. So, and then one good thing that I used to like about it, we were going there as a group. Like after school, all the Muslim kids used to rush to madrasa. At that time, at least, we used to compete who will get there first. And then the teacher was also encouraging, like, you get there first, you're the first to recite. If it's a task for the day, you're given that what can you call it? Like, you're given that position to be the first one to recite the task of the day, or maybe what you have studied the day before. So, okay, you see, most of the times when someone gets something new, they usually feel very good. So upon us getting introduced to Islam, now we have to change our dressing code. So probably these hijabs were new. That's one thing. So putting them on, you feel very fine, like, yeah, you just want to put on it all the time. And then when you go to school, your fellow kids are like, oh, you've started going to the mosque. yeah, wow, wow. And then they're like, yeah, you look great and all that. You see, some of them could even tell me, uh, can we also become like you? Or can you go and bring me one? Were you given an extra one? I would also like to have one, you see. Yeah, so that feeling was just good. The other kids admiring you and all that, also wanting to be the same. But now you see the position of the parents. You see, it was a consent of the parent that we convert to Islam. In our area, you see, we were mostly surrounded by Christians. Actually, our distance to the mosque is it's not that long, but at least, so there is one household, one big family that was just a neighboring family, where, all like everyone in that family, it was like this extended family of almost like 5 households, and they were all Muslims, you see. So that, and then you see, dad used to work with this okay, in this company that he is working till now, there are his friends that he used to work with. So I think, what I usually think is that you see, when he used to have encounters with his friends, they used to tell him all this, and then now this thought of, oh, then I would like to become a Muslim. Then that decision now came up, and then he took the next step of converting to Islam. Okay, another thing also, actually my mom's place is not in Kenya. So where they were born, they were Muslims. So it happened that one of her parents died, so they had to come back to Kenya. Kenya is my grandmother's place, you see. So they had to come back in Kenya, and then now you see, now this lady is divorced, and kind of not really divorced, but now she's single. She's come back here. She has all these kids. I think they were around 5, 6 siblings. So she has to take care of all these kids. So that urge of still holding to the religion wasn't that strong. That's why it got to a point that, when mom met with dad, they talked here and there, and then they got married in not an Islamic environment, you see. Yeah. So like she got married, and then now that my dad used to go to church, so it grew up from there. Now mom had to, now dad being the head of the family, now you have to go to your church and all that. So we grew up some bit of our childhood, we grew up going to church. And then now it got to this point when I was in class 3. That was back in 2006. Yeah, if I'm not wrong. In class 3, now, yeah, that's when we converted to Islam. And now, so my last 2 siblings, they were born while we were in Islam. Okay, so I started my education back in 2003. I was still very young. Okay, and so in 2004, I was enrolled in class 1, and then 2011, sorry, I did my KCPE exams, and one good thing that I was happy about my exam period and even the results. So at this time, mom wanted to really empower me, and so she came to cook for us while we were doing the KCPE exams. So for the whole class 8 group, so she came to cook for us, and I was so happy. It was an encouragement, you see, to me. So after that, I was actually, I really got good results, and it was due to that encouragement from my mom. Actually, I was the second candidate in our school, So I usually say that it's because of that encouragement. Then so while I was in primary, just before I can continue, while I was in primary school, since I used to attend madrasa and all that, so we used to have these officials from Bilal Muslim coming to the centers, talking to us, telling us, when you study hard, at the end of the day, when you get a good grade, good marks, you're going to be sponsored. So it's upon you to put more efforts in your studies. So that's what I usually remember sometime before I did my KCPE. And then after my results were out, now, it was, I have made it. So what next? So that's when my madrasa teacher back then, the late Ustad Hamisi Nyondo, he took my papers to Bilal Muslim office in Mombasa, and I got a sponsorship for my secondary school. I studied in Ribe Girls Secondary School from 2012 to 2015. And then, so during this time, you see, this is a time that your mind now is opening up to new things. Now that actually from home to Mombasa, it was now my first time, you see, when I was big enough to know 1, 2, 3. So at least that time I was like, this is a new environment. So I learned, and during that time in high school, we used to get people who used to come and advise us, on how you can improve in your studies, how you can do well, being mentors. And actually, one person that I usually recognize up to date, that they really gave me that urge to go on, to move on. And like I felt like there was someone who was watching me and really wanted me to do good in life. It was one brother Amar. From that time, he used to work in Bilal, back then. So we could host seminars. So during these seminars, they could just come, talk to us, give us good advice, and that is the time when you start thinking, what do I want to become when I study further? So at that time, I had this urge of becoming a journalist. I was really like, you see, at some point, I'm really interested in this work, these machines and all that. So I was like, I want in time to come to be a journalist. So I went for a course. I was enrolled in Machakos University. I did a Bachelor's of Education in English and Literature. So probably I'm a high school teacher, a teacher of English and Literature.